Well, you may think that it might be a bit too early to be starting to talk about electioneering, looking at potential elections coming up, maybe even the next general election. But as has been stated a couple of times already, if Boris continues this path of absolute failure, you could have a party, even though it has a majority, that the is it 80? No, yeah 80 seat majority. That is it 80? Oh, is it 80 now? I can't remember now. It's 80 or 40. I can't remember which one of those two. Um, but we'll just go with majority. Could have that a lot of his majority suddenly rebel against him, because a lot of, as very clearly been shown, especially a couple of weeks, the desperateness of some of the Tory MPs protecting Cummings, but not only some actually turning on Johnson, saying, "Well, why aren't you firing him?" And it's very simple. We went over this just last week. Johnson is a man with no ideas. So why would a man with no ideas fire the guy who has all the ideas? I've always said you are not hearing a lot about what the Tories actually tend to do, or want to do, shall we say, after Brexit. Because a lot of what they want to do is really hard right-wing stuff. You've got the whole trade deal with America, which is going to screw over things. We've got this whole a lot of the ERG and the whole right-wing Tory party saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to change the regulations," but they don't say exactly what regulations they want to change or how they're going to change them. We've also had Michael Grove come out and say, "Yeah, we're going to change the Human Rights Act, but we're not going to say what we're going to change in it." And once again, this causes massive confusion, which in itself feeds into another part of why the negotiations are taking this bizarre turn, because the Tories don't want to give the game away of what they want to do, which has been on the cards for quite some time, is they want to turn the UK into a pretty much no regulation, very low taxation state, and that basically would be making it, as has been dubbed before, a Singapore on the Thames. This, of course, would work perfectly for the City of London, and basically the rest of the country would just suffer, essentially. That would be that's their plan, unfortunately. But we get in back to electoral politics, because a lot of these new Tory MPs, the ones who took like long-standing Labour seats, as I said multiple times before, a lot of them, almost as soon as they got in, started sitting very, very uncomfortably. Remember, they promised to get a deal. If that deal doesn't materialise, it hurts the North and the Northwest economics so bad, we could see it with worse things happening than what happened in 2008. And 2008 was bad enough, and we are still suffering from the repercussions of that economic crash. Do you think they're going to, reward the Tory party for that? No, absolutely not, in any way, shape, or form. Also, you have the coronavirus fallout. Lots of these people who voted Tories have lost family members, been affected by the coronavirus, maybe even economically been affected by the coronavirus, to which the Tories haven't really done a lot of help. For example, landlords got a massive payout, but you still see a lot of landlords out there demanding full rent from their tenants. That's just the case. They haven't done anything to protect vulnerable tenants during this time, but there you go. Yeah, they may have suspended evictions for like 3 months, but they're still demanding rent. And here we go, we get into this, because now we get into some election politicking, but You might say it's a bit too early, but I still think these are valid things that will heavily affect the next general elections and even local elections to come. So this comes from The Guardian, and it is: key election battlegrounds face double hit from Brexit and coronavirus. Key English election battlegrounds in the Northwest and Midlands will be severely exposed to a double economic hit from Brexit and the coronavirus should the UK fail to secure an EU trade deal by the end of the year, a new analysis has warned. This is I always fun when it says new analysis. We've known this for quite a while. If you follow this channel for any length of time, you know we've covered this before. So this isn't a new revelation. This has been on the cards pretty much even since before the referendum. People saying, look, this is what will happen. So Boris Johnson has continued to rule out any extension to Britain's EU transition deal, which expires from January. It comes despite a deadlock in talks about a future trade deal before the final round of the talks this week. However, an impact assessment of ending the transition period found that manufacturing, banking, financial and insurance sectors would be severely exposed to a double economic hit from Brexit and the coronavirus. The Stock Market Foundation analysis divided the country into areas, then placed each in a category between 1 to 5, with 5 representing the most exposed to a double hit, and half of those in the Northwest are Category 5 and a further 40% in Category 4. It said that the West Midlands, where the Tories made major gains in last year's election, were also exposed. There have also been warnings that new border arrangements in the Irish Sea will not be ready by Johnson's end-of-year deadline. But Downing Street is adamant that the transition period, which gives Britain access to the EU single market, will not be extended. James Kirtrip, the SMF director, said that in some cases and some places that double impact will be severe. At base, this report demonstrates the single fact that leaving a developed free trade agreement with our nearest and largest trading partners at the same time as facing a pandemic will expose many local areas of the UK to a double economic impact. The study was funded by Best for Britain, which is campaigning for a comprehensive EU trade deal. Naomi Smith, its chief executive, said this report, which maps both the impact and shocks, definitely rebukes any speculation that the impact of leaving the transition period could be masked by the coronavirus recession. The data is clear. When you scratch beneath the surface, you find so many key sectors that will be exposed to a dangerous double whammy of economic hits. And we've been saying that for years. So, once again, this isn't really news if you've been following this. And once again, I say to Brexiteers, how can you justify this? How can you now say that Brexit is a good idea, or leaving, again, the single market is a good idea? But, maybe we should extend the transition period until we get a deal. And then once we've got a deal, maybe we should vote on it again. Maybe we should go, do you want this deal, which is infinitely going to be worse than actually being a member, or do we want to just go back to being a member of the European Union? Now, of course, that's never going to happen because they're never going to risk it, because they're quite frankly too close to achieving their long-held ambition of trying to essentially restore the British Empire to Project Empire 2.0, which again is a complete fantasy which will again never work. But that's Brexit. It's all based on fantasies and unicorns, and when Brexit meets reality, reality always wins.